Hey guys, how are we doing? Back on another video from Clyde. We're checking out another Bleach video, and we're going to have an explanation on Ceros. Educational video on Bleach. Love it. Let's get into it. Oh. Okay.
Some people, they like the sound of relaxing rain in the night. Others, they enjoy some lo-fi anime tunes while they study.
Yes.
There are also many who happen to partake in the art of popping bubbles.
Oh my god, it's so therapeutic.
By the soothing release of serotonin from the brain.
Right, what's going on
then
here?
there are those special individuals out there who love the sound of lollies breathing. FBI, open up!
What?
For me, I love me a good Cero.
Hell
Ceros
yeah.
are cool as fuck. In today's explained video, I will be talking about Ceros and also Ballas, as there isn't enough to talk about for Yami's favorite attack to have its own video. So if you want more Bleach and explained content like me, please
subscribe.
Make sure to hit that like button. And if you're a Bleach
We've got another
fan,
Ichigo form video on the way as well, haven't we? So that'd be cool.
If you support me, I'll keep supporting Bleach by making plenty of content in the future. One of the most contentious and confusing things when it comes to the topic of Ceros that quite a lot of people are actually curious about is actually how fast are Ceros?
The light speed, aren't they?
Entirely on who's using the Cero itself. Without going into too much over-the-top explanation, you can sort of look at it like this. A normal red Cero fired from Coyote Stark would be much faster than a normal Cero fired from a Menos Grande.
Right, okay, right. So depending on the strength of the user, the faster it is.
Pressure. Just like how defense and attack potency is explained to be.
Well, that's what he just said.
When it comes to the actual speed of Ceros, Ceros are usually referred to as light in the artbooks,
so light speed.
the anime, and the manga, which can be interpreted in two ways. Either A, the Cero is legitimate light and moves at light speed.
That's what I would take it as.
That's the baseline speed for Ceros, which gets an increase in speed based on who fires it. This would make sense as lieutenants are shown to dodge the Negation, which is a light used to
it's instant.
those of the Vasto Lorde level, and the light itself even has the respect of the head captain. Lieutenant and Captain class Soul Reapers are constantly referred to as the level of power that is needed to take on a Menos Grande, meaning there is a consistent preponderance of evidence along with many other feats later, which imply that it's incredibly possible for Ceros to actually be light speed. Or, if you want to consider the second option, which is B, it's just referred to as spiritual light, and this is nothing more than flashy wording. In the case of Ballas, although they lack the power that a normal Cero has, they make up for it by being 20 times faster than a Cero. If we say a Menos Grande can fire a Cero just a single time the speed of light, then they could fire a Balla, which is 20 times faster.
Whoa.
Now, this is obviously a low ball what I'm about to say, but if you take second release Ukiura and you consider his normal green Ceros in second release, these green Ceros would naturally be faster than a Menos Grande's Balla. And if you used a Balla in second release, it would be insanely faster.
Oh my god, yeah.
Now, there is no evidence to imply that it would be faster than 20 times. If we establish that his normal Ceros in second release, and this could also be argued for Stark too, if they are to use Ballas in Stark's Resurrection and Ukiura's second release, the speeds that they get into are pretty crazy. It's pretty wild to think that if, say, Stark and Ukiura were having trouble with a character's speed from another verse that is relative to them, they could close and surpass that gap that they are relative to, depending on the character, by using Ballas.
Yeah, we're using those, right. Makes up for it.
I only mention it with that sort of wording because a lot of people actually forget about how important Ballas are and generally just never bring them up in versus debates. Funnily enough, they are actually so consistently fast that when Urahara is messing around with pre-amped Yami, that he actually uses a portable gi guide to dodge one of the Ballas so he can analyze how the attack works. Now back to Ceros. Ceros can also be used in various different ways, like how Findor could use it to spam hundreds at a time while fighting his
ridiculous.
Stark could spam hundreds to thousands to even
just shooting them out with guns.
That's if you take the databook scan translation literally, and with one of his guns he could fire a more powerful Cero from it, though he needed to actually his gun to charge up those.
It's like the only way Kubo could bring guns into it, man.
She could use special Ceros, which she used by slashing the air, and it would shoot out a yellow Cero. And Ichigo in the war arc against Yhwach could actually mix his Ceros with his Getsuga Tenchos in a similar fashion. When it comes to the power of Ceros, Ukiura's base Cero was actually so strong that he essentially one-shot Ichigo while he was holofying.
Yeah.
Now at the same
like,
time,
damn.
Yami was actually going to kill Yoruichi with his at point blank. Now, granted, she wasn't in the position to be able to dodge the actual Cero. In the data books, it actually does imply that she was going to die from it, which was actually stopped by Urahara.
Yeah, man.
And Grimjaw Clyde was actually going to obliterate Rukia with one single base Cero while he was injured.
Yeah. Oh my god.
To be able to change the shape of his Ceros, which he actually uses in his base form while he has one arm and is injured, to pierce through Shinji's holified Cero to pop the Cero and disperse the blast at point blank. In the manga version, it's just shown that he uses his Cero in general to just block the actual blast itself, but in the anime, they show that he uses it to pierce.
Actually goes through it, yeah. Right, okay. Interesting how they change all that, yeah.
It's a pretty cool little thing to note because even in their base forms, their red Ceros have incredibly high attack.
Yeah, that's pretty decent.
According to Ukiura, only two things are forbidden below the canopy of Los Noches, and that is the release of Granre Cero from any Espada, and the second is the release of Espada ranked 4 and higher. When it comes to
it'll just
Granre
destroy
Cero,
everything.
they actually seem to have the highest multiplier of all the Ceros. Now this depends on how you interpret the translations of the Cero Oscuras, as it says order of magnitude, which can be considered in the ballpark of around 10 times, though the post-episode explanations refer to it as being several times that of a normal Cero. Now this could be talking about several times base when it's fired, or it could be talking about several times the actual release potency of a Cero, which would still, as I said, depending on how you interpret it, put it in the ballpark of around 10 times.
Wow.
Granre Cero are actually so potent that they bring Espada who actually use the Granre Cero, who are also weaker than the top 4, to the point where they can cause as much damage to Los Noches as the top 4 Espada,
As the top 4 would,
meaning
right.
it is comparable to their release states and the gap in power between those ranks, even among the base forms when compared to one another, which would by default make Granre Ceros 10 times base in terms of their attack potency bare minimum.
Whoa.
I'm actually halfway through scripting a video which actually explains
sick.
the Resurrections. So in that video, I'll actually explain why times 10 is much more important.
Right, that's cool.
Look
forward to more Bleach videos, Clyde, yeah.
Oh,
I watched Burn the Witch. I thought that was pretty cool. Did you guys watch Burn the Witch? Just throws you in, doesn't it? It's a shame that I already seen the Soul Society thing when the manga came out, like posted everywhere, but I thought it was quite fun. Some interesting character designs that are definitely based off of like Bleach characters. It's only 3 episodes, go check it out. I thought it was quite good, but it really just throws you straight in, no explanation what's going on.
would holify because he would need to holify to block it so that it wouldn't hit Orihime. So it's very possible that the blast itself would have caused way more damage
than
if
it did,
Ichigo
yeah.
either A,
Didn't block it,
or
right.
2, Grimjow didn't control the Granre Cero. Though I would put my chips on the side that Grimjow actually used it to bait Ichigo into holifying. And it's also funny because when Noyatora and Yami use Ceros,
Show me what you got.
their normal Ceros don't distort space like the Granre Cero did, whereas Grimjow's did. This is further proof as to show you how strong Granre Ceros are, as they are so insanely strong that you can't really control their potency even with spiritual pressure control. Because once again, if you consider 2 factors, you know, Grimjow knew Ichigo would block it, he did control the blast. Even with both of those things in mind, it still distorted space, and the Fruction were angry at Grimjow for doing this. The fact that Ukiura decided to use Lanzado Relampago over a Granre Cero after his Cero Oscuras failed against White means its multiplier would be even larger than the Granre Cero, and it's debatable that this lance is some kind of highly concentrated Cero-related explosion. It's like his Las de la Luna in his first release state. Once again, the fact that he decided to use the Lanzado Relampago over a Cero Oscuras and a Granre Cero just proves that that attack is much more powerful.
It's just very, very strong.
Good video.
The fact that Good video.
Needed to use these techniques which multiply his attack potency many times over proves that White is kind of really strong. White's base Ceros are actually so powerful that he could block amped Cero Oscurases with his normal Ceros, as you need to keep in mind that when Ukiura hyped up the Cero Oscuras in his first release state, obviously when he goes into his second release state, the potency and multiplication of the power itself is going to be much higher.
A lot higher,
This
yeah.
further backs what I mentioned earlier about Ceros not having a base speed or attack power, and it relies solely on who is actually firing it. These same normal Ceros also had the power to cut the chains of hell, which Yamamoto said was impossible and showed respect.
You can't do that.
Power. It
Watch
also
me,
cleared
main character,
multiple
bitch.
layers of hell and broke through the gates of hell and affected Earth all in the span of the one Cero which was fired. In
Damn.
the War Arc, Ichigo uses his Granre Cero mixed with a Getsuga Tensho, as I mentioned earlier, and it made the attack so potent that it cut Yuha bark. Some to this day still believe that this is called King's Granre Cero, though this isn't actually the case, as these were fan translations from 2016.
Oh.
The official translation just says Granre Cero.
Right.
This appears to be some kind
Stupid
of
fans.
translated destroy Ichigo's hollow to being the king of Wako Mundo from a power point of view. It makes sense what they're going with, as this form of Ichigo would be one of the strongest hollows to ever exist, right? But it's just headcanon and not an actual thing. Also, Pesce and Dondachaka can use this weirdly overpowered fusion serum, and although it does not work on Zael,
What is it?
he does state that it is a brilliant and devastating attack, and admits that he would have been defeated by Pesce and Dondachaka had they actually used it earlier when the battle began, rather than just then. Not necessarily a huge deal, but it's pretty cool to see that these fodder characters, when they mix their Ceros together and create like this high-density Biju bomb thing, that it actually
like a Biju blast, yeah.
quite a lot, so just a cool little side note. Hiyori can also use a triple Cero, which I mentioned in my Advisor's ranking video, and although it doesn't have some inherent Gronrei Cero or Oscuda's multiplier to it, it's obviously stronger than just using a normal Cero on its own. Nalial Tol Udenschfart can also absorb Ceros, then increase their attack potency upon being fired by mixing it with their own. Ukiura also believes Ichigo's Black Getsugas in his Mock Bankai operate very similar to Esparta's Cero Oscudas. Now, this could entail that he's implying its multiplication of power once discharged, though his wording seems to imply the physical appearance of the attack itself, as he goes on to show him the attack straight after saying this, quote saying that Ichigo hasn't seen it before. Oh yeah, just another side note, they're actually called Doom Blast in the Viz translation, which is, kinda corny.
But, yeah, that was cool. I like, when you compare how strong people are and stuff. Like, scaling! I love scaling! I would never do it myself. Too many arguments and stuff there, but I definitely like watching people go through with this, the methods and seeing how they get to where they're at. So that's cool. And more Bleach stuff. Bring on the anime. Watch Burn the Witch. I did like it. It's very random. My only complaint is like that there's not much there. It's just literally like throw it in there. There's dragons and people that do powers, and oh my god, this guy attracts dragons, and oh my god, there's a reverse London, and people can cast magical powers like they do in Bleach, where they do the number and do Hado, but they say something else, and they use wands and stuff. But yeah. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't, leave comments down below, let me know what you want to discuss future videos, and I'll see you guys. It's all you guys. And down. Bye.